Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and that amazing guitar solo was Prince. It is straight up at 11 o'clock. Welcome to a Wednesday midweek edition of the Mornings with Ed show on the Voice of Laguna. We are still, of course, all day long going to be following the updates on the family that had gotten washed away yesterday at Treasure Island. Two of the three members of the family, the mom and the youngest child, were rescued. The adolescent is still missing. So again, when we hear a siren go by or a helicopter fly over, I'm kind of filled with a little trepidation as to what the answer or the outcome of that might be. We are delighted to welcome. We booked this a while ago, and coincidentally, the subject matter today is going to be near-death experiences. We're going to start off there. Professor Melissa Harris, a psychologist who, for the longest time here in Laguna Beach, had a place called the Juniper Consulting Lab. It was a comprehensive approach to healing, to promote balance and well-being. And really, we turn to her for all things psychology, as you would any professor, any gifted professor. Welcome in for the conversation, Professor Harris. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Hi, Ed.
It's wonderful to see you after such a long time.
It's great to be back. I love summers in Laguna.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for coming on. I know you've got a busy schedule while you're in town, and me and the audience appreciate your time with us today. How has it been? You're vacationing now because you're a professor at a university now.
And the summers are just so wonderful to reset and to gear up for another school year. So, yeah.
All right. And you found your wheelhouse.
I'm doing a little out adjacent to my wheelhouse. I've always done positive psychology.
Right.
And I was asked to do something that really... Sorry, we're talking about near death because I'm recovering.
Then I wanted to get into that. Yes.
So my voice kind of comes and goes, but it's a little bit adjacent in that I was hired to really focus on compassionate communication with people who are going to go into drug addiction counseling.
Right.
And so it's not the normal, let's focus on positivity and happiness,
right,
as much as, the purpose and meaning and the parts of life that can be harder.
Yeah.
So
those parts of which you are infinitely qualified to be a professor.
Thank you.
So you, and again, the subject matter came up because you suffered a near-death experience.
I had to take medical leave. I had hypoxic lung failure and sepsis. In the midst of training to climb a mountain with my brother, we were going to do Kilimanjaro in December. And the one thing that I was afraid of was my lungs because, physically I could do Kilimanjaro, no problem. But it's the elevation and the lungs that really had me worried. And then and then I woke up and was like, wow, I get to face that fear.
Had you always had a problem with your lungs?
Never.
Okay.
So.
And what instilled that fear in you then?
I think because there's no training for elevation, you just either can handle it or you can't.
Right.
And so as people, experience high elevation,
right,
I've seen people who can run a marathon every month not be able to make it to the top because their lungs just couldn't oxygenate their blood properly.
Right.
And so it really doesn't have anything to do with how in shape you are, how far you can run, how strong you are. Those are variables that can play into it, but they don't determine it.
Okay. So what I'm reading is two near-death experiences, one with the lung issue and then sepsis separately?
Yeah, they both happened at the same time. So I had the viral and the bacterial.
Right.
And it was it was a little wild. Yeah,
Okay.
I kept thinking, before I had my ambulance ride, I've lived a good life, which is a nice, peaceful place to be when you're at that place in life.
And that opens up the door to now the questions about the actual experience of near death. You consciously thought you were going to die.
I've had closer calls with death than this one.
Okay.
but yeah. So I have a pretty interesting family, and I know not to say this at a dinner party because all of a sudden it's hijacked, and I don't really love it. But My mom died and came back giving birth to my younger brother.
Okay.
My dad died and came back in a horrible accident about 20 years ago. I died and came back when I was a child and, was fully dead, and then came back and I was in a coma for a while.
What happened?
Head injury for me.
Okay.
And so, so we have a family that has had very non-normative experiences.
Right.
And you can see that and sense that when you're with my family. We don't really sweat the small stuff, and we just find a lot of joy even in the worst of the storms.
Right.
And so I think that that's something that when you've looked at death pretty close. I was the survivor of a violent crime, which I've mentioned before.
Yes, you have.
And that is really when I sat for hours thinking, okay, I'm not getting out of this. And I was in my early 20s, and so then it wasn't, okay, I've lived a good life. It was, how do I want to prioritize my life if I get out of this? How do I want to make every moment the most meaningful for myself and those around me? And so in a way, those kisses with near death can be amazing gifts. They're transformative. That's one of the reasons why I think, hanging out with people who have survived cancer or car wrecks, it is so powerful because you live so intentionally, or you have the potential to anyway.
Right. So let me just erase the first question, which I'll circle back to that.
Okay.
The near-death experience as a child,
Uh-huh.
as compared to the near-death experience you just recently had,
Yeah.
is what happens in the brain the same thing? Is it that that is it almost dreamlike? I think is what I'm curious about.
I think I dismissed my experience a lot because I was a kid,
Right.
and the way that we take information in as a child is different as an adult. But it wasn't actually until more recently that I spoke with my parents about their experience, which is strange that we never have had this conversation.
Right.
But it was very, very similar, and that we just felt such a huge sense of love and overwhelming. And I think that that's really shaped who we are. I have yet to meet somebody that I just don't feel automatic immense love for. And anytime I feel that being challenged, I know that that's where I need to lean in. And so, for example, many years ago, I noticed having judgment about pedophiles. And I was like, okay, that's my next challenge. I need to sit with people who have had that as part of their life experience and been what we call the villain, and have love for them and see them as a person and see myself in them. And so I leaned in hard and I started volunteering in prisons, and I decided that for me is something that's important. I want to be able to love everyone. And the more I love myself,
Right.
especially in these challenging times, like when I've been sick for 3 months,
Right.
the more I know that I have that as a muscle I've been building for other people. And it's easy to love myself when I can climb a mountain. It's a lot harder when I can't get out of bed to grab my inhaler that is 2 feet away.
Right.
So, it's a bigger challenge.
And I cannot imagine first of all, the want to get to know pedophiles, or the ability to be able to not be absolutely disgusted, and all of the things that we all generally feel. Clearly, you've been somewhere else, so you find that ability to love all. What drives them? What did you learn by volunteering at the prison? What drives their pedophilia?
Well, I mean, that's a whole nother show.
Okay, all right.
But there's brain differences.
Right.
And I had an interesting conversation last night about choice. And for me, I feel like I have choices in things. I show up to a situation and I'm like, I have a choice. But when I deal with other people, it's interesting because I don't think of them as having choices. And that's what can drive a lot of my compassion, I think,
Right.
because we are so complicated. And there's an amazing poem by Thich Nhat Hanh where he talks about if we lived the other person's experiences, if we had their genes, if we had all of the things that brought them to that moment, we would be them. And so when I look at somebody and I go, wow, you've done this thing that we've deemed very horrible. If I were in your shoes, I would do the same thing. How can I not find that love and compassion for you? And so I think that that's one of the ways that I've been able to, but I've obviously, like, my parents were examples of that. And maybe it's because of their near-death experience. Maybe because I had that gift of feeling so much love. And then really in my 20s saying, okay, I can choose fear, I can choose anger, I can choose malice, or I can say this person did the best that they knew how in that moment, and I happen to be on the other side of that gun.
Right.
And I can love you because I can love life, and I can love myself, and I can love everything that comes with this human experience. And I'm not exempt. Why would, people are like, oh, I'm so sorry you got sick. And that's the proper thing to say. That's like
right.
our language thing. But in my head, I'm like, I'm not sorry. I learned so much about myself and about, leaning into the support and love of those around me. And yeah, I still can't climb a mountain, but I'm here
right.
and I got out of bed, and there's so many things that I have to be grateful for.
So, you have clearly you have extra insight, whether it is just naturally, whether you ever had a near-death experience or not. You clearly have extra insight into our psyche, since it's, and I don't want to say derived from a near-death experience, but can it clutter your logic? Can it clutter your better sense of self ever?
So you mean, can it make it more complicated to want to have love for everyone? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking.
I feel like if we can really pinpoint one value that we have, and mine is going to be different than yours and different than somebody walking down the street,
right.
And we say, I'm going to make every choice based on this one value and anchor it down to that, then it actually declutters, it simplifies. And so for me, every choice I make, is it moving me closer to love? Is it moving me closer to peace? And not just for me, but the ripple effect for the people that I love, that I don't love. Is it going to bring that into the world? Then it's so easy to make those choices. It's right. Automatic.
Right.
And so I think it maybe has the opposite effect.
Okay. Because those of us that might be a little more cynical, and I'm raising my hand right now in that I'm one. I'm curious as to how you, let's say you're teaching a class, how you can separate your own personal experience from instruction, or
I don't know that I even tried to. Right. I do think that I lean very heavily on research,
right.
And in my family, research is the love language,
right.
And I think it is because I've had a lot of non-normative life experiences that I want to understand my species and how I fit into it, right. And because I often don't trust my own perspective. Right. I want to know the bigger pictures. I want to know the graphs and charts and the statistics. And so when I teach a class, I try really hard to leave the word I out of it.
Right.
And I focus more on the themes and the research, and I don't make it personal. It's not a like, hey, you're going to come study Professor Mel for an hour. You're
right.
going to come and study compassion or love or communication. And so I don't think that I try to really be anything but who I am in every situation. And so, I definitely think that that's going to influence how I show up in the classroom.
Okay.
But I do, even in my conversations with my children or with the people that I care about, or Friday night dinner, bring in research. So, for better or worse.
So I was looking at photographs from the James Webb Telescope, and deep into space, and the hundreds of millions upon billions of galaxies out there, and planets within those galaxies, solar systems within those galaxies. and I felt very small. I felt really insignificant in the larger scheme of things. And then juxtapositioned that with my place on Earth and the fact that I may be just like one cell in a human body, and that one cell has importance, but I can't help but feel that insignificance in the larger scheme.
So how did that settle with you? How did that land? Did it feel...
It felt like I've always felt. I've always kind of felt that way. It just kind of, in seeing it, it just kind of, it solidified what I had kind of already thought. And I wonder, none of us are insignificant. There's not a person on the planet that is insignificant. But do we make the most of the significance?
I love that question. Yeah, because I don't really think it's about, being insignificant. It's just how do we give meaning? And when I see, the large scale of things and I feel really small, instead of feeling sad about it or hopeless, I feel so liberated and empowered because I can fuck up huge and the sun is still going to shine tomorrow, right?
Right.
And so how glorious and beautiful is that nothing that we do is so huge it's going to wreck everything, not even our own lives. And so I think that there's so much freedom in that perspective, but I realize it's not always shared. And the meaning is in the moment. I was reading this book yesterday and it said, if there isn't life after death, then it's all pointless. And I immediately had to put the book down and go, wait a minute. Like, we can give it as much beauty and meaning as we want, as we choose. That's part of the human experience. So whether we're, building a castle in heaven or there's no heaven at all, that doesn't take away from this moment where I'm sitting here with you talking to you and the good and the love that we can both bring.
So it's funny you mentioned that. As it's probably not a surprise, I don't believe in life after death personally. And I'm curious as to, in that moment of the near-death experience, and I want to go back to that for a second, and maybe you garnered something different from your parents than you felt. Now, I'm glad that they finally opened up about their experiences with you. But in that moment, in that instant of thinking, this is it, is there any sadness at all because of your children will miss you? You left a page unturned.
Well, for my mom, she said that, she was giving birth to my brother and she was like, no, I got things I need to do. Like, who's going to feed that kid? So for her, it was very much unfinished business.
Right.
For my dad, he had a very long and slow and painful recovery. I mean, he basically, his bones were like they were put in a blender and he had to relearn, even speech was impacted. And I asked him, knowing what you know about how painful it was to come back, would you still have made that choice? Because that was one thing that all three of us experienced, was that it was a choice. And it wasn't a huge consequential choice. It was like, do you want to see this movie or that movie? Which one sounds better? And so he said, instantly went to gratitude, and he's like, well, I can do this and I can do that, and I can plank from fist position, and would not even touch the question of regret or remorse or woe is me. Went straight into gratitude. And so, I think that this most recent one, where I was passing out and I was like, okay, I can't breathe, and it felt like I was suffocating and probably not going to come back. I remember thinking, I will never be prepared to say goodbye to my children. No matter how old I am, my children are going to miss me. Have I done everything that I can with every minute that I've had to make it meaningful, purposeful, and to show them that I love them? And, when I see them for the first time each day, do they know that? Can they feel that in the way that I look at them, the way that I put my phone down or my book down or whatever I'm doing, to just take that moment and really let them know that they are the world? And I hope that, whenever it's time for me to figure out what's on the other side, if you're right or you're wrong, Ed, then then
I don't want to skew anyone else's opinion. It's just what I
I think we kind of don't get skewed by other people's opinions. I've never met somebody and be like, you're really smart. I'm just going to go with what you felt on that one, right?
Right.
Like,
Because I don't know. I don't know. Right.
Yeah. And
right.
so I hope that is my answer, because the truth of it is I'll never, ever probably feel ready to not be with them or with the people that I love, or to watch a sunrise or a sunset, or, there's just, but I think that the peacefulness comes from very much being intentional of how you choose to spend your time.
Right. And this is going to be weird and maybe too personally revealing, but in my non-belief, and if I was to include that the picture of the James Webb Telescope of the universe, I would at least hope that, and there's hope that's something. I would at least hope that, if not permanently, but shortly after death, it was dreamlike. Sometimes I think to myself when I have, by the way, since hip surgery, I dream now. I'm able to remember dreams, and I dream vividly, and a lot. And that wasn't the case beforehand.
Wow.
And I think to myself, I like dreaming. It's a pretty cool. It's waking up and you think, I had some dreams. I would hope that at least for those first several minutes after death, it's dreamlike for a little bit. And I wonder if that's the case. If when people say, I saw a light, I died, I saw a light at the end of a tunnel, all of that, maybe that's a dream, and maybe that's a continuation of a conscience.
Yeah, that's a lovely thought.
It is.
I mean, for me, it was very dreamlike. I remember thinking, like, why are the stars below me?
Right.
But again, I was a child, so I kind of just dismissed it.
Right.
And I've actually never been interested in reading, like, about near-death experiences, or I don't know. It's never been anything I've been drawn to. I think I'm very analytical of, like, well, how is the brain wiring, synapses firing after? And so I tend to be more logical and concrete in that.
Right.
But I'm also open to the fact that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And as a kid, when I did have my near-death experience, and I was in a life flight in a helicopter, so it's quite possible that I saw stars below me, but also I was told I was unconscious laying on a bed with no heartbeat. So I don't know. I mean, I just, there's so many things I don't know, and I am glad that I don't know. I love not having the answers. I love having questions. I love the curiosity that comes from waking up and not knowing. I'm so glad I'm not one of those people that knows everything.
Right. There are some out there.
There
are some out there.
Yeah.
Usually they're wrong about everything. You mentioned you want your children to know that you loved and felt great, and that they felt valued.
Yeah.
Right? What are for the rest of us, for the rest of, non-death, just in a daily life, day-to-day life thing, what are the personal assessments that we should make to determine our value to others? Whether it's friends or lovers or husbands or wives, boss, whatever. What assessments should we make to determine, yes, they value me and this is worth continuing with this relationship?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to break it down.
Well, please.
So I think that I would start with presence, because we seem to be so distracted and multitasking and on our phones. And one of the things that I have tried to embody from my own dad is that when I have a conversation with him, when anyone has a conversation with my dad, it feels like there's nowhere he'd rather be than right there engaging with you. And so often with communication, we are thinking about our response, and we're not really listening. And so the power of that, of just listening, is phenomenal. And it goes both ways. So, you talk about, like, what relationships continue, the ones where you feel heard, where you feel seen. And I still am learning so much about this. My youngest son came into my room in the middle of the night. I'm a little tired from it, but that's okay. He came in and he had a lot on his mind. And for me, I always thought, okay, when I'm listening, one of the skills is to ask questions. And that shows that you're listening, and ask it about them and not the, been there, done that. I have that same thing, because that means you're making it about you.
Right.
But really, can you just listen and show up and make it about them? And so I was asking him questions, and he said, Mom, I don't need you to understand. I just need you to listen. And I went, oh, that's going to stay with me.
Yeah.
Because it isn't even, that's making it about me. I am trying to understand. That's the me, that's the ego, and this whole time I thought that was a sign of, wow, I'm really listening, when really it's just being there, being present, making that person feel like there's nowhere else in the world you'd rather be. And if we have that interaction, even a 3-year-old feels that. So I think that is a really good marker and parameter of when you're with somebody, are you present? And it doesn't have to be the minutes of time spent with somebody. There's some fascinating research with parenting that says it's more about perceived availability. If I call my parent or I need my parent, will they be there? Not, are they in the room on their phone?
Right. Right.
So there's a huge difference there.
Right. And I imagine that statement from your son had changed that one statement changed your relationship with everyone in your world.
Oh, right. How I'm going to listen, for sure. And I thanked him. I said, wow, that really, really was a moment for me. I didn't say it right then. I waited till breakfast, and I was like, thank you. Thank you for helping me grow and learn and show up better, because I really want to. It's important for me to know the best way to show up for each of the people in my life.
Right. And if you don't feel that sense of value, that sense of presence from whatever it is, whatever relationship it is, cut it off, move on, because life is too short?
I mean, there is that. Yeah. There are some that are harder to cut off, right? Right. And I think that it's really important to understand that love has boundaries. For me, the way that I've come to understand boundaries is the space in which my heart can remain open. So my boundaries don't look like other people's boundaries. I tend to be very much like, you don't have a home, come live with me. It'll work out fine, and that's not how everyone works. And that's great. That's where you get to know yourself. And so if you find somebody that's constantly challenging those boundaries and making it feel really hard, then you can decide, how it fits. But I think just because somebody challenges us doesn't mean that they need to leave. It just is, you got to decide what works and what doesn't.
Right. Or figure out a road to drive down with them.
Right.
Maybe a different road.
But there are definitely people that I'm like, we don't bring out the best in each other. This is not a way that I want to spend my time. Right. I don't want to spend my time with people where I feel like I have to be guarded and have those walls up and have those defenses. It's not fun. It's exhausting. Yeah. So not the kind of exhausting that a nap fixes, just that bone tired when you're around somebody that just keeps bumping up. So, yeah.
And I want to go to the Kilimanjaro really fast. Do you ever see yourself attempting that again with oxygen or
Oh no, we're doing it in December.
Oh my God! You're sure?
Oh come on, Ed, have you met me? So
what precautions are you going to take?
Well, as much as I love being a professor, I'm a student always in life, and I'm currently in the Stanford writing program. And the most recent piece that I submitted was called Pathological Optimism in Kilimanjaro, because my brother had his birthday and he suffers from long COVID. So he's had lung issues and he's had some health stuff. It's part of the reason why I said, we're going to climb a physical mountain and a metaphorical mountain. Both of us need this in our lives right now, and we're going to do it together. And we're going to get up every morning and we're going to train, and we're going to, sink hard into the mental and the physical components of what's needed to take on Kilimanjaro. So he's got the long COVID thing. I've got whatever lung things, the hypoxic lung failure. Right. So I have oxygen in my purse, and there's 6 stairs in REI from the main floor up to the hiking boot section. Right. And for his birthday, I said, I'm going to get you hiking boots for Kilimanjaro. And it took us like probably 30 minutes to get up those 6 stairs. I
Okay.
kept having to take oxygen. I was like, by the time we got to the person and say we need boots for Kilimanjaro, they were probably like, you guys can't even go up the stairs. What are you doing?
Kilimanjaro, are you
But yeah,
kidding? Yeah.
but we joke that we're pathological optimists. We very much accept things how they are right now. We don't plan on them getting any better, but we sure hope that they do, and it's fine if they don't. So that optimism is still there. The precautions that we're taking when I had to leave work, coming to sea level made a huge difference, because Denver, one of the reasons I'm there is to train at higher elevation, and it was too much. I wasn't getting better. My white blood count wasn't going down even with a couple rounds of antibiotics and steroids. Like there was no progress. So coming to sea level really helped. We're just going to keep training, but instead of the training that feels punishing, I'm listening to super mellow, beautiful music and checking in with my body and being like, are we good for this today? Showing up with a little curiosity here. Can we run, the 6 miles, or does it need to be 3? And or is it just a day off where, you have a cup of tea and reflect on how grateful you are to have the human experience and not be exempt. And so, so the plan is still end of December.
Okay.
And we're both making progress. And one of the things that that has really come forward is sometimes we have to face our greatest fears, and mine with this was my lungs. And so I got that out of the way.
Right.
And so, we're still doing Kilimanjaro.
Right.
It's still on.
Hats off and a giant applause for you there.
Thanks.
My God. And just one medical question, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Any possibility that there's scarring in the lungs, I'm sure, that would eventually turn into like a pulmonary fibrosis where they solidify?
I'm working with a pulmonologist.
Okay.
And it was really funny. My last appointment, I said, so I have the go ahead to push myself.
Okay.
And he said, yes. And then he got quiet and he goes, what does that mean?
Yes.
And I said, well, I'm training for Kilimanjaro, and I'm also an aerial silk stancer that likes to hang out 25 feet off of the ground with my fingers holding my full body. And he went, well, of course. And then I was like, what does that mean? Do I just look like one of those people? But
he went home and tore up his certificates.
But I am working with somebody. I'm not reckless. And also for me, it's how does having this goal shape me? It's the goal. It really is that stupid cliche. It's the journey, not the destination. If my brother and I don't make it to the top, that's okay. We had something that really pushed us to get up at 4:30 in the morning, run a mountain, do hot yoga, look at, how we're treating our bodies, how we regulate our cortisol, how we push the physical stress, but not the emotional, and vice versa. And so, it's been a beautiful experience. And whether we make it to the top or not, honestly, I don't even really care. It's not the outcome for me. And I feel like that is mirrored in so many things now. It isn't the outcome. It's just the
journey.
beauty and
It's
the
journey.
it's so cliche.
It's not such a dumb cliche though. And that really works for everything, for life.
Yeah, it
life
does.
is the journey.
Right. And when you become so outcome oriented,
Right.
you miss those beautiful moments. And I tell my brother that like the hardest part about working out with him is it's really hard to hold a 5-minute plank when you're laughing. And we crack each other up the whole time. And so it's just so filled with joy. And I don't know if we were like, we have to make it to the top, if we would be able to have that much happiness in it.
Okay. Well, I can only wish you the very best of luck there.
I think so.
And this comes with almost the perfect segue into this question, which is mental health is tied to physical health.
Absolutely.
And vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Physical health is tied to our mental health.
Right.
Inextricably so. Can you be one without the other?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. For me, I've definitely watched as depression has taken hold. And I had a student from 25 years ago reach out this week and say, are you happy? Because she's not.
Right.
And my very honest response was, in this moment, I'm happy, but I'm not always happy.
Right.
And there's a saying that my daughter, who is an Ayurvedic practitioner, reminds me of, and that is, when your brain is struggling, get into your body. When your body is struggling, get into your brain. And you're not always going to be 10 out of 10 for both. And so, like when you had your hip and your knee issue, anchoring into the things that mentally bring you joy, whether it's reading a book or talking to a friend, the things that your body wasn't allowing you to do can help pull you to that level of having more purpose and meaning in your day. And then vice versa. Like when I am really stressed or mentally tangled, going for a run or spending time in nature, doing something physical where I can take a break from the brain part really, really helps. But yeah, we are mind-body connection. I used to think it was some hippy-dippy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so true. It is so true. So yeah, they're related. And sometimes, making that step forward, saying mentally I'm struggling, okay, I'm going to go for a walk, and then that walk can become a run. And then, like my brother and I, that run becomes Kilimanjaro. So there's definitely a relationship there.
And before you attempt Kilimanjaro, are you setting goals, physical goals that you have to meet before you go, or you?
Yeah, we had some 14ers planned, and then we had to cancel them.
Right.
And those were hard days. Those were, like, this isn't really what I wanted to be doing right now, but how do I make peace with that? And sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes I'm like, I'm going to let this rock my world, and I'm just going to sit here and cry because it sucks. I can't breathe, and I want to be climbing a mountain. But that's where, if you want to have the meaning and the purpose, you broaden that to our common humanity. In those moments, instead of feeling alone, which when we're at our lowest points physically and mentally, it can feel so isolating. Just taking that step and saying, how is this the human experience for everyone, can give you that broader perspective. It's like looking at the universe. Every single person on the planet that has ever lived is going to suffer. And when I sit here and I feel like I'm special and unique, then it makes me feel even worse. But when I can go, wow, this is going to make me a softer, gentler, kinder person, kinder person.
We knew what you meant, yeah.
Then that's where it can come back and help with that mental healing on the other side.
It's that feeling that I mentioned earlier, or that sense of being a cell in a human body, being just one cell in a cell in a body of many.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being part of the collective.
Yeah, so if you can broaden it to that. And I think for the most part, on those days where we had the hikes planned, I could be like, wow, we all are disappointed. And the next time I'm around somebody that's super disappointed, I'm going to have this moment where I can reflect back on it and feel those feelings again. So, yeah.
And in working with people through addiction and the agony of addiction, which it really is an agony to be addicted to, whether it's whatever,
so much suffering.
whether it's a chemical or anything. What have you learned?
Oh, man, so much. So the program that I'm a part of, we really wanted to diversify the people that are working as counselors and therapists. And so we have funding to basically do in mental health what we've already done in medical and physical health, where if you go in to see a doctor, you're going to see like a medical assistant or a PA, and it's part of a care team. In therapy settings, what we've had is just people who have got their bachelor's, gone to grad school, done their LMFT credentialing or whatever kind of credentialing on top of all of those years of school. So right there you have a selection bias of probably more white privileged people being counselors, showing up to these situations and serving populations that they don't represent. And so the program I'm a part of is Stackable Credentials, where we're developing care teams where it's 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 4 years, and then going on. And all of the people that don't have the credentialing to be full counselors are still part of the care teams. So we selected with this grant money people who have had the lived experiences. And so, in one of my classes, there were 18 students. Half of the class was homeless or transitional housing, coming to class after sleeping in their car. Right. And so I've seen so much about resiliency. I've seen so much about power and strength. And that sense of life can be hard. It can always be harder. There is no bottom. It just keeps going down. And you can focus on that, or you can look up and you can do that small piece to make a day better for yourself or for others. And so with the people that I'm working with, it's just humbling to be able to be part of their journey. My first semester, I had just this powerhouse of a student who high school dropout. She was part of the grant funding to be able to get her high school diploma, and then went on and signed up to do the behavioral health program with an emphasis on drug addiction, was raised in such an abusive, toxic situation, had 4 kids as a teenager, just really unfair life experiences that so many of us don't ever have to face. And I remember she turned her first paper in. It was amazing. And I wrote a little note, and I tried to do personal notes of just like, just encouragement. And just, I read your work. I saw how much effort you put into this. And I just said that, I really could see the strengths of her paper and what she brings to the program. And she came into class before it began, and she just broke down and cried. And she said, "You're the first person that's ever told me that I'm intelligent and that I have potential." And it broke my heart, because I think about the parents that I grew up with. I grew up with parents that if I robbed the bank, it was the bank's fault because I was perfect, which, shows up in other pathological ways that maybe my partners along the way didn't really appreciate. But just parents that really believed in me, and that said if I tried, that I could succeed. And here was a woman with 4 children, an adult who's had all of these life experiences, and I was the first person to say that. And so it was such a reminder that kindness can show up anywhere and in any form, and you never know how big of an impact it's going to have. I mean, I've written that note on probably thousands and thousands of papers, and I've never really thought about the impact on the other end. And so I think it's just reminded me to be more gentle, more compassionate.
Right. That's I love that story. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You never know what people are dealing with, right?
Right. And just a little affirmation, from someone who cares.
And and I think, why not care?
Right.
What does it cost us to care?
Right. This may be an unfair question, but curiosity just grabbed me this morning. You were on the beach when the family got washed away yesterday. You were on that beach at Treasure Island.
Yeah, so last night a bunch of my friends and I decided we were going to do the beach, and we had planned it like about a month ago.
Right.
And so we were down there, and it was interesting because there were kids that were pretty tiny playing out there, and it was so stressful to watch. And a couple of the people were like, "We're going to be the fun police. We're going to go over there and just be like, dude, you got to get your kids out of the water."
Right. And
I actually hate talking to strangers. I know that's hard to believe because I'm talking to strangers right now. I just pretend I'm only talking to you.
Thank you.
But I was like, yes, please, I will make you cheese and crackers while you go and talk to them. You please just let's get these kids out of the water. And as we were leaving, all of the vehicles came, and we heard all the sirens, and we saw the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's just a nightmare of a situation.
And for the mom,
yeah,
for the mom who her and the youngest child were saved, but who lost, for all intent and purposes right now, we believe has lost her adolescent child.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine the weight of that guilt for the rest of her life. I cannot imagine oh my God, I just for the sake of going to the beach for 3 minutes or whatever, have lost what. Is that's not recoverable? That she's different forever, right? There's stuff that's going to happen the rest of her life because of that, right?
Yeah. So, you saying I can't imagine, anyone who says I can't imagine is imagining.
Right.
And so you are trying, and you're having empathy and compassion for the space that mom is in. And honestly, that's a life-changing experience for her, and probably everybody that can keep this on their mind.
Right.
And it was just a few moments, and that's one of those reminders that you never know when you wake up in the morning. And for her, I think we confused grief and guilt, and she's probably going to have heaps of both, and guilt is one of those things that can transform you to make better choices and live better. Guilt can also be a swamp that leads to shame, and it can bury you, and it can make it so you don't function. I think guilt in a form of like a lily pad that you jump on and you go, wow, I can do better, I can live better, I can show up better, then that's purposeful guilt that is healthier. The kind that sucks you down is not the kind that makes it so you can have any kind of happiness and joy. The grief, we've talked a little bit about grief on the show before, and grief is the cost of love. If you love, there will be grief in small moments and big moments, and so the cost of that is huge. And who's to say? I feel like in a situation with that, if you lose a child, you have a pass for the rest of your life to show up however you show up, right? That is something that's so unimaginable for most people. And thankfully, most people don't ever have to experience that. But can you show up for the kid that's still alive? How do you show up for the life that you're still living? And those are questions I don't have answers to. I just know that grief and guilt are powerful, life-changing factors, and in small doses we've all experienced those.
I'm going to close with that, and we've got you back one more time this summer. Do we? Okay. Yeah. All right. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll book a July date if that's okay. Are you here August as well?
I leave the first week of August. I need to go climb a 14er.
Okay.
I gotta test out these ocean lungs.
All right. We will very much look forward to seeing you again. Thank you always for the honesty and the answers, and
Ed, it's so great to chat with you,
and for the clarity of the conversation.
Hey, thanks for getting me to talk about near-death experiences, which to me I don't really bring up very often.
Right. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation, as always. Professor Melissa Harris with us today. Back in July, we'll book that date here at some point. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you. It's 11:47. It's the Mornings with Ed show, and it's the all-new Voice of Laguna.
From Laguna Beach to Miami Beach to the Jersey Shore, the best radio on earth is Voice of Laguna Radio.